You think you know what humiliation feels like? Imagine being mocked in front of a crowd and then watching the video of your worst moment go viral for millions to see. Some might call it just a prank. But what happened next made everyone rethink what harmless fun really means. Let's start from the beginning. The morning heat in Los Angeles had that unique ability to turn everything into a sticky, uncomfortable mess. On a tourist-heavy square in front of a fake Buckingham Palace replica, visitors shuffled around, snapping photos and sipping overpriced iced drinks. Jacob Brown, a 28-year-old walking definition of too much, stood right in the middle of it all, grinning like he was about to win an award. Jacob wasn't your average content creator. He thrived on pushing limits, pranks, stunts, social experiments, whatever could shock, disgust, or get a reaction. His audience adored him for it, and he adored the views. For him, the more outrageous the prank, the more viral gold it was. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jacob boomed into a mic connected to a portable speaker, "get ready for a royal-level prank." Beside him, Tina, his wiry, no-nonsense camerawoman, gave him a side-eye. She wasn't fully on board with his antics, but she kept filming. "Jacob, maybe don't land us in jail this time," she muttered, adjusting the camera. A few feet away stood Sergeant Lewis Johnson, a 42-year-old guard in full British royal regalia, or at least the closest thing this American knockoff could get. The tall black bearskin hat, the crisp red uniform, it all screamed professionalism, even as tourists hovered, hoping for a reaction. Lewis was a pro. After years of standing his ground against pushy visitors, he'd perfected the art of ignoring nonsense. He'd faced goofy faces, bad jokes, and awkward selfies, and he hadn't flinched once. But Jacob wasn't here for something so harmless. Jacob sauntered up to Lewis, holding a steaming cup of coffee. His smirk stretched wide, confidence practically oozing off him. "Hey, sir," Jacob started, mock politeness dripping from his tone. "Let's see how tough you really are." Before anyone could register what was happening, Jacob hurled the hot coffee directly into Lewis's face. The square went silent, like the whole scene had been put on pause. The coffee splattered across Lewis's skin, and though the burn stung, the humiliation was worse. The tourists gasped. Phones came out in waves as people began recording from every angle. Did he seriously just do that? What kind of psycho throws coffee at someone? Tina barely suppressed a laugh as Jacob turned to the crowd like he'd just pulled off the prank of the century. He took an exaggerated bow, his voice booming. "And that, folks, was the Royal Coffee Challenge." The crowd's reaction was a mix of shock and horror, but Jacob ate it up. Lewis stood frozen, gripping his ceremonial rifle. His face burned, not just from the coffee, but from the sheer insult. He'd dealt with plenty of ridiculous behavior in his time, but this was something else. Completely unaware of the storm brewing, Jacob gave Tina a wink and started walking away. "Come on, let's get out of here before they ask for autographs," he joked, still riding high on adrenaline. Tina jogged to keep up. "Jacob, I swear, one day this is going to backfire so hard." But Jacob wasn't worried. In his mind, this was just another successful stunt, one that was about to make him even more famous. If only he knew. Sergeant Lewis Johnson wiped his face, the sting of hot coffee still fresh. His younger colleague rushed over, concern written all over his face. "Sergeant, are you okay?" he asked, his voice shaky. "I'm fine," Lewis replied flatly, though his jaw tightened. "Not the first time I've had to deal with idiots." But this time, it wasn't just another annoying tourist. The public humiliation, the laughter, and the cameras all replayed in his mind like a bad movie he couldn't shut off. After years of handling rowdy visitors, this felt like a deeper wound, one that cut past his uniform. Meanwhile, Jacob bolted toward the parking lot, buzzing with excitement. "Tina, did you see his face? That was gold. This video is going to blow up. I mean, we're talking millions of views." Tina followed, her camera still in hand. She wasn't as enthusiastic. "Jacob, are you sure this isn't crossing the line? Like, for real?" Jacob laughed. "What line? Come on, Tina, he's a guard. Their whole thing is just standing there, taking whatever happens. It's practically their job." They climbed into Jacob's car, and he wasted no time uploading the footage to TikTok and YouTube. At first, the comments rolled in as expected. "Dude, you're a legend. This is hilarious." Jacob leaned back, grinning. "Told you, viral material." But then new comments started appearing. Wait, this is just cruel. Not cool, man. That guy looked hurt. This isn't a prank, it's harassment. Jacob frowned, scrolling through the growing backlash. People are so sensitive these days, he muttered. Across the square, tourists who had witnessed the stunt were posting their own videos. From these angles, the full scene was visible. Jacob's smug face, the hot coffee hitting Lewis, and the guard's quiet, dignified pain. Public opinion was shifting fast, and Jacob could feel it. Tina gave him a wary look. You're losing the crowd, Jacob. It's just a vocal minority, Jacob insisted, though his confidence wavered. While Jacob tried to convince himself the storm would pass, Lewis had other plans. He marched straight to his supervisor's office, determination in every step. This needs to be reported, Lewis said firmly. It's not just about me. This kind of behavior needs consequences. His supervisor nodded. We've already got witness statements and security footage. Let's file a formal report. Lewis signed the report with a steady hand. The memory of the prank still burned, but so did his resolve. That guy isn't walking away from this, he said quietly. Back in the parking lot, Jacob sat in his car, nervously watching the comment section explode. What started as a wave of praise had turned into an avalanche of criticism. This guy's about to get canceled. Humiliating someone at work? Not funny. Tina sighed. Jacob, this is bad. People aren't forgetting this anytime soon. Jacob scowled but said nothing. Deep down, he knew she was right. What he didn't know was that the police now had his video and every witness statement they needed to track him down. The fallout was just beginning. An hour after Jacob's so-called masterpiece at the square, he was parked in his beat-up sedan, nervously scrolling through the comments on his video. His once smug expression had vanished, replaced by furrowed brows and the subtle twitch of panic. This guy's a joke. Imagine thinking this is funny. Hope someone teaches him a lesson. Hot coffee? Are you serious? That's not a prank, that's assault. Jacob rubbed his temple, refreshing the page compulsively, hoping for a wave of positive comments that never came. Tina sat silently in the passenger seat, arms crossed, the weight of the situation pressing on her shoulders. Say something, Jacob muttered, more to break the tension than because he wanted her opinion. Tina sighed. What's there to say, Jacob? You messed up, big time. People are furious. This isn't blowing over. Jacob threw his phone onto the dashboard with a frustrated groan. It's just the internet. They get mad about everything. This will be old news by tomorrow. But the knot in his stomach said otherwise. And then came the knock at the window. Jacob flinched, his head snapping toward the sound. Standing outside were two police officers in full uniform. One of them, a tall man with a firm, unreadable expression, motioned for Jacob to roll down his window. Mr. Brown? The officer asked, his tone leaving no room for argument. Jacob blinked, his throat suddenly dry. Yeah? Step out of the vehicle, please. What? Why? Jacob's voice cracked slightly, panic creeping in. The officer didn't flinch. You're under arrest for assaulting a law enforcement officer in the line of duty. We've seen the video. Jacob's heart sank as the words hit him like a freight train. What? No. That wasn't assault. It was a joke, a prank. The other officer, shorter but just as stern, moved closer. You can explain that downtown. Step out of the car. Jacob opened his mouth to argue, but the officer's unrelenting gaze shut him down. Slowly, he stepped out, his hands raised slightly. Look, this is all a misunderstanding, Jacob tried, his voice shaky. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. But the officers weren't buying it. One of them pulled out a pair of handcuffs, snapping them onto Jacob's wrists with a metallic click. By now, a small crowd had gathered in the parking lot, drawn by the flashing lights of the patrol car. People whispered and pointed, phones capturing every second of Jacob's downfall. Is that the guy from the coffee video? Yeah, that's him. Good, serves him right. Tina leaned against the car, arms still crossed, watching everything unfold with a mixture of resignation and quiet vindication. She didn't say a word, just gave Jacob a brief glance as the officers escorted him toward the patrol car. Jacob, now pale and sweating, looked over his shoulder. Tina, do something. But she didn't move. There was nothing left to say. Miles away, Sergeant Lewis Johnson sat in his modest apartment, sipping tea and watching the local news. The headline at the bottom of the screen read, Viral prank leads to arrest, coffee thrower in custody. Lewis's expression remained neutral as the reporter recapped the incident, complete with clips of Jacob's video and footage of the arrest. He leaned back in his chair, letting out a slow breath. He wasn't celebrating, but a quiet sense of satisfaction settled over him. "Sometimes," he murmured to himself, "justice works the way it should." The story of Jacob's prank continued to spread online, but this time the narrative had shifted entirely. He was no longer the daring creator pulling off risky stunts. Instead, he was branded as the guy who thought humiliating a guard was funny and paid the price. For Jacob, his viral fame had taken a turn he never saw coming, and for Lewis, it was just another reminder that even in a world full of chaos, sometimes dignity wins in the end. What would you have done in Jacob's place? Do you think his prank went too far, or do you see it differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you know ever been involved in a situation like this? Let us know how it turned out. Don't forget to hit the like button if this story made you reflect on how actions can have unexpected consequences. This story was created with the goal of shining a light on important issues and making the world a better, more understanding place. Your opinion matters. Let's start a conversation.